Hi, welcome to Tag Arcade. And in this episode, I'll be explaining to you why I'm using C Sharp versus JavaScript. So the reason why I'm using C Sharp instead of JavaScript is because JavaScript does something called implicit conversion. That means if you have two different data types, it's going to try to set one equal to the other. And if it can do it, it will do it. And if it can't, then I'll throw an error message. Well, there's one day where I spent a few days trying to figure out why this piece of code wasn't working, and it was because of implicit conversion. And it is very hard to find that kind of thing, especially when it's deep into game development. You have thousands and thousands of lines of codes. Okay, maybe not thousands, but like a whole bunch of code. So I'm going to show you that in a very small example and how it could be very annoying. The good thing about C Sharp is it will give you a warning message if you try to do implicit conversion by accident, which I have done numerous times with JavaScript. So, in this example, we're going to prototype something. We're going to have a car that's going to be able to go up, down, left, or right when the user presses the up, down, left, and right arrows. Also, we're going to have a button so that if you press a button, NOS will turn on. So if NOS is on, the car will go super fast, and when NOS is turned off, it'll return back to normal speed. So let's go ahead and create that example. So we'll go hit File, we'll save the scene, and we'll call this car prototype. So let's get into the habit of creating scenes, saving it right off the bat. So the next thing I'm going to do is going to create my car. Since this is a prototype, we're just going to go with something simple, a cube. We could always change the cube into something else later. So at this point, it's going to be a cube, and I'm going to rename this to car. So use your imagination. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a script. Since I want to show you about JavaScript, I'm going to select JavaScript. And I'm going to call this car move, and as always, I'm going to attach this car move to the car. Let's go ahead and double click it so that we could go ahead and edit the script. So the first part of it is when I press the arrow keys, I want the car to move. So let's go ahead and start that script. But before that, you can see with Visual Studio, if you do use JavaScript, you'll get these two warnings: invalid characters and expected semicolon. So that has to do with this pragma strict code right here. Visual Studio just doesn't know how to deal with pragma strict. So if these two warning messages are really annoying, you could go ahead and switch to monodevelop, and you don't have to worry about those error messages. There might be a way to get rid of it in Visual Studio. I don't know it. But yeah. So moving on. So yeah, if I press the arrow keys, I want the car to move. So let's go ahead and look at the scripting reference to find out that functionality. Since I looked at the scripting references before, I know it's going to be based on input.getKey. So get which key is being pressed, so we could do different things on it. So if we do input.getKey, we have our code example. So if you look on the top right hand corner, there's two buttons. One says C Sharp, the other one says JavaScript. And if you toggle between the two, it'll change your code example. In our case, since we're using JavaScript, we'll select JS and highlight the code, hit copy, and let's go back to our code and paste it in. So this one will print to our debug log, or our console, I should say, which arrow keys are being pressed. So up, down, and I need two more, left and right. So I'm just going to paste and change the appropriate numbers, or letters. Left, okay, 1F, not 2. Left, and right, and right. Since I'm going to do more than one thing in my if statement, I'm just going to go ahead and put my brackets in, just to get into the habit of writing clean, legible code. And last one. Okay, done. And once we do that, let's go ahead and test our code. Make sure this runs properly. So file, test. Okay. So if I press up, down, left, or right, things will change. Up, down, left, right. Okay, done. So the next step is when I press up, down, left, or right, I want something to happen. I want the car to move. So let's go back to our scripting references and see how to do that. So after searching for this earlier, I found out that the piece of code that I want is called transform.translate. Go ahead and do a search. And let's look at our code example. So after looking at our code examples, this is the one I want. So let's copy it out of here and pasting it in. So paste, 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 and finally, paste. Save. Now, if you look at this, transform.translate is going to move in the forward direction of my vector 3. So wherever my object is facing forward, it's going to go forward. Well, that's fine if I press up, but I don't want to do it for down, left, or right. So what should the code be? Well, to do that, let's copy vector 3 and go back into our Unity code, vector 3, and do another search. So after selecting vector 3, we see what some of our other things are. So we also got back, forward, left, right, up, or down. So the ones we care about is to move forward and back, left and right. And if the car has wings, can sprout wings, it could fly, maybe up and down too. But for now, up, down, left, right. So we're going to go, or just say forward, back, left, and right. Because up and down means height. Left and right. If I could spell right. Right. There we go. Save. And test out the code. Let's go back. And there might be inconsistent line endings in the script. So how do you fix inconsistent line endings? Well, you go to File, go to Advanced Save Options, and change all the line endings to what you want it to be. Since I'm on Windows, I'm going to choose Windows. I'm going to click on OK and hit Save again. And now that warning message should go away. So let's go ahead and hit play, see what happens. So here we go. Forward, back, left, and right. Okay, so this is all nice and everything, but I think this is going a little bit too slow. So let's go ahead and stop it and go back to our code and change it so that we could set the speed within the editor so that it could go a lot faster. So let's go hit var speed int equals 3 because I already know the default of 1 is slow. So based on our speed, we wanted to go so much faster, so we're going to go times speed. And copy and paste is your friend, so use it a lot. Hit save. Okay. So I'm going to hit close my console, play. Okay, so forward, back, left, right. You know what? It's actually not quite as fast as I like it, so I'm going to hit car and change my script speed to say 5. See if I like that better. Forward, back, left, right. Okay, so that's pretty good speed. And if you notice, I am on play mode. So if I want to mess around with the code to see how fast it could go, I could say 100. See what happens. Wow, this thing is going super, super fast. Okay, but this is in play mode. When you change a variable, you are testing to see what numbers sort of will work and what won't work. So a lot of times when you play test, you want to undo what I did. So 100 is way too fast. I'm going to hit stop. There you go. And now it changes back to 3 because I was just prototyping. I was just testing. Well, sometimes you might forget you're in play mode. In my case, it's easy to see because I have an orange tint. So if I do 5 and stop, I'll see it doesn't save the changes. By default, the play mode is, if I go to Edit and Preferences, the default color for my play tint is off. So in my example, it was really easy to see whether I was in play mode. with it off, what's going to happen? I'm going to go on play mode, and I forget I'm in play mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a bunch of changes. Well, in this case, change the speed to 5. So let's pretend not only did I change speed to 5, I went to all these other game objects and changed all these other things around. So move that over. I took my light and I say, I don't like the light over there. I'm going to move it here, so on and so forth. You made hours and hours worth of work, and you're in play mode. So what's going to happen? Those hours and hours worth of work is going to go bye-bye, because when you hit stop, my light went back to the original position, my camera went back, and I couldn't tell whether I was in play mode or editing mode. Yikes! So to avoid that headaches, because I have lost hours and hours worth of work because I didn't realize I was in play mode, and that really stinks. So, edit, preferences, colors, change your play mode to a nice color, so you know if I'm in play mode, it's a nice tint, something's gonna go wrong if I don't save it. Yeah, so that's that. So what's my next part? Okay, so we know that I'm gonna have a NOS button. When I press the NOS button, I'm gonna go super fast, and if I turn it off, I'm going to go super slow. So it's going to be a toggle on and off. But first, in order to do that, I have to create a private variable that controls my current speed. And I'm going to say int equals 0. So I always like to give things an initial value, especially if it's private, just so that you don't get into any errors later on. So I'm going to say current speed over here is equal to time delta time times speed, semicolon. And now, since I made this into a variable, I don't need to be redundant, so let's make this current speed. Hit save, and let's go play test this. Unexpected token current speed. So why is that? Well, invalid token speed means I completely forgot to put var while declaring my variable. So that's what that means. So let's go ahead. I got rid of the error message, and let's go. If I go up, nothing happens. If I go down, nothing happens. Left, nothing happens. And right, nothing happens. So why is this happening? Well, the reason why this is happening is because of something called implicit conversion. So, do you see where the error is in the line of code? I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to do, oops, let's see. I'm going to create something. So debug.log current speed. And I'm only going to do it on when I press the up arrow. Hit save. So let's hit play. And let's see, when I press up, my current speed is 0. So why exactly is my current speed 0? Well, let's find out. We have time delta time. So time delta time is the time difference between each frame. And if you're doing, like, say, 60 frames per second, or, sorry, it's time delta time is the amount of times this code is going to run. And that time is going to be a very small time frame. You could definitely look into the Unity documentation, find out. Just go ahead and copy this and paste it into the Unity script, and it'll give you more details. But essentially, time delta time, time speed, is going to be a small number. Say 0.0 something something something. So in computer languages, 0.0 something 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 is called a float or a decimal number. But computer term, it's called a float or a double. What's going to happen is it takes that double or that float, or actually in Unity it's a double by default. It's going to take that double and it's going to convert that into an int. So what happens during the conversion? Well, when a float gets converted to int, that means it's going to truncate or get rid of everything past the decimal point. So my 0.0 something 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 is just going to become 0. And that's why our object is not moving at all. So to fix it, I'm going to make this into a float. Hit save, back, play, and now if I press up, down, left, right, yep, our object is now moving correctly. And you can see what my actual number is, 0.0 something something something. So that's called implicit conversion. And in JavaScript, it's going to let you do it. And it's really hard to just figure out why your code's not running because your file type, when you initially declared it, is going to be the wrong file type. So for code completion sake, I'm going to finish the rest of the code. So, or the rest of the function of my prototype. So the rest of the function of my prototype is a NOS button, so that when I press it, my car's going to go super fast, and when I press it again, it's going to go back to regular speed. So let's go ahead and create a new UI element. Let's go ahead and create a button. And my button is nowhere in view. So I'm just going to double click on my button, swing the camera around, zoom it out to see where it is in terms of my view, and sort of move it into view. Okay. And now for a text, I want to say this is NOS. Okay. File, save. Save a lot. Saving is your friend. Definitely save. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back. So let's go ahead and create another private variable. Bool. Oh, sorry. NOS. And I'm going to say this is a Boolean, because I just want to know whether or not this is on or off. And by default, I'm just going to call this, turn this off. File save. Okay. Go back and see what happens. Okay. Private field, car NOS is never used. Okay. That's fine. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Let's see. Okay, so I want some visual representation, since it's a private variable that is not exposed to Unity editor, of deciphering whether or not the NOS is actually on or off. So what I'm going to do is going to create another variable to change the text from NOS to NOS is on or NOS is off. So do var button text as a text and leave it at that, because I'm going to set this in the Unity editor. File save. Let's go back. And this is wrong. Did I really mean, well, it's not wrong, but the name text does not denote a valid file type. Did I mean Unity engine.ui.text? So yeah, that's what I meant. So Unity engine.ui.text. File save. Let's go back. And that error message goes away. The weird thing is, just like we saw that error message, normally it should give me an error message for Boolean. As in, it doesn't recognize Boolean. Do you mean system.boolean? I'm not sure why it's not doing it on this time, but if you run into that problem, you could do system.boolean as well. File save, and yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's why. Okay. So if you use Boolean with a capital B, you get this error message, and it forces you to use system.boolean. But if you use a lowercase b, well, that works as well. Okay, So I learned something in this tutorial. Okay, so let's move on. Actually, let's go back to Unity Editor. Let's go ahead and link up my text to my code to make life easier. And close that. And on my card code, here's my text. There we go. File save. File save. Go back to my line of code. Okay, so if NAS is on, I want the text to say button text dot text. Well, okay, let's change this to something more human legible. NAS button. Okay. File save. Let's see what happens in here. Forgot my semicolon. Okay. Go back. Forgot my semicolon. Do semicolon. NAS button. Let's change NAS button. File save. Let's go back to my Unity. Okay, well, let's just finish the game logic here. Okay. Equals NAS is on. Else, so if NAS is on, we're going to tell the button NAS is on. Otherwise, we're going to copy this and say NAS is off. Okay. Let's go ahead and go back. No more error message. Let's make sure my button text is still linked. So let's link our button text to our code. Hit play. And when I play, first begin it, NAS is off. So if I press the button, absolutely nothing happens because I didn't script in what happens when I press the button. So let's go ahead and go back to our code and say function. So call it NAS toggle. And what's going to happen? Well, if NAS is on, I want it NAS to be off. And I'm going to want my button to say NAS is off. There you go. Else, if it's off, I want to toggle it back on. So I'm going to say, copy this. Oops, wrong one. This one, that tells me NAS is on. I'm going to say NAS equals true. File save, go back, play. Function, unknown identifier for function. I misspelled function. Okay. Unknown identifier for NAS toggle, that all those goes away. Let's try this again. File play, NAS is off. If I press it, absolutely nothing happening. Why is anything happening? Because I didn't tell the NAS button to do anything. So let's go to our button and tell the button, when you click on the button, do something. The script that I wanted to do is from the car object, so I'm going to drag car into here and say this is going to be my NAS toggle. File save. Play. Test it. Testing is your friend. Test a lot. NAS is off. NAS is on. Okay. Yay, functionality here. Stop. And let's go ahead and continue. So, if NAS is on or off, I want it to change the speed. So, if NAS is on, I want to go super fast. And if NAS is off, I just want it to go to my regular speed. There we go. So, in terms of super fast, copy, paste, times, say, 10. Save. Minimize. Play. Okay. So if I press, it's going to go. Okay. So I really can't see it in my scene view too, so let's just go ahead and double click on my car, rotate the camera around, zoom it out, just so I could have another perspective other than the game window. So it's moving, that's NOS is off, so let's go ahead and turn it on. Boom, super fast. Nice and speedy. Turn it off, nice and slow. So there you have it. That is the basic functionality of my prototype. So the reason why I like C# is C# will actually give me that error warning because, like I said, the difference between it working and not working is very simple. I initially set it as an int when it should have been a float. So to see what it's going to look like in C#, I am just going to copy all of this and do a code conversion right now. So copy that. Let's go ahead and create a new script. C#. I'm going to say C car move. Enter. So C car move. Open that. Reload all my scripts because I added a new script. Bunch of slashes. And paste. So let's go ahead and convert all of my things right here into its C# equivalent. So if you want to know what the C# equivalent is, you could definitely use the Unity reference. So I'm just going to go highlight all this and make this visually pleasing. So I'm going to highlight all three and hit the tab key. By default, in C#, everything is private. So in order to expose the speed variable to the editor, I need to say public ints. Okay. And since this is private, I don't have to say anything. It's going to be private by default. If you want to, you could say private. It doesn't hurt. And probably it's more legible if you actually make it private. But for this case, yeah, in my case, I'm just going to leave it as that. And text. Okay, so I need public because I need to expose this to my editor. And yeah. So if I look down at the bottom, okay, there's a lot of error messages at the bottom. Oh, because I still have a lot of things else to do. What error message am I trying to look for? I'm looking for the one that talks about the word text. Oh well. Anyway, on the bottom, I can't find it right now, but there should be an error message that I don't know what text means. And the reason being is it is part of the Unity UI engine. So in order for it to recognize it, I need to tell the Visual Studio that I am going to use this UI element. So you need to use using UI element. And as long as it's before the public class, it's fine. I like to do it in the middle between Unity Engine and Systems Collection. You can do it after Systems Collection. You can do it before Unity Engine, just as so long as it's before the public class. Okay, so I'm going to delete that. Okay, so since I copied all that and converted those, I'll delete those. My start function between C# and JavaScript is about the same. So let's do edit, update, cut, paste, and NOS toggle. Okay. So let's delete all these lines of codes because I finished doing my conversion. Well, almost. Void NOS toggle. Save. Minimize. Okay, insert consistent line endings. Let's go ahead and fix that. Why not? So, Windows, save, minimize. Clear. I like a nice clear console window. Okay, let's just close it too. Oh, actually. So now we gotta make sure our new script works. So let's remove the old one. We know we have button functionality. Let's go ahead and remove this functionality since it's no longer available. And C#. I need to know about my text so I can change the text value. On my button, I need to re-add my functionality for my car to do a NAS toggle. And I don't see NAS toggle. Because like I said, by default, no one has access to that unless you make it public. So public. Go back to my button. Go back to my functions. And I got NAS toggle. File. Save. Play. Okay. Now, car's moving. Wonderful. Turn it on. Goes super, super fast. Turn it off. Goes nice and slow. Okay. So we have our JavaScript converted into C#. So I'm going to show you what happens if we make this an int. What happens when I initially coded it if I was using C#? What would happen? Well, if you look all the way at the bottom, it says you cannot implicitly convert types from float to int. That means it's giving me a warning that it's going to convert something from a float to an int. And since I told you, when it does its code conversion, it's going to drop off everything past the decimal point. So right off the bat, C# says, I think this is a mistake. Are you sure you really want to do it? And if you really want to do it, then you have to explicitly tell me you really want to do it. So it's not going to let me run this. No matter how hard I try, it says, I am not going to let you do it implicitly. You have to explicitly tell me you want to do this code conversion. So let's say if I really, really wanted to do this code conversion, in order to tell it, yes, do this code conversion, you have to do parentheses int, which means I want to take all this expression and convert it into an int. Well, sort of. At this moment in time, I'm converting time.deltaTime into an int first, and once I do that, I'm going to times it by speed and by time. So order of operations. That's why you learned this in math. So I want to convert the whole expression. So I wanted to do the arithmetic first, and whatever the value is, I want to typecast it into an int. So sometimes it matters, sometimes it don't. But in this case, I am going to add in parentheses. So I am explicitly saying, thank you for the warning. I know what I'm doing. I want to convert it anyway. And that's exactly what I want to do, because I want to show you this example. I'm going to hit play, pressing up, down, left, right. If you look on the bottom right, you can see, yeah, things are happening, and it runs the same error of 0, which means I can't move it. So this is why I love C#, because if I do something stupid, you have to purposely do something stupid. But yeah, there's just more error detection in C#. So this is just one example. There's probably other reasons why I prefer C# over JavaScript, but this is the main reason. So if you like this tutorial, like, subscribe, comment. If you want to tell me about something else, go ahead, leave a comment as well. So hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and until next time, have fun and just keep on creating games.